when I do anything, I usually try to approach it in a very methodical manner. And so any idea that I do propose, I'm going to probably do it in this kind of format. And the initial format is first what I call a discovery process, which involves a lecture or at least some sort of seminar involving the actual topics that will be involved. And then we will call what I call the engage or the practice activity. And this is what usually, using the stuff that you learned in the discovery process, you actually apply it. And then you assay or evaluate what you've already covered in the practice activity. And so that by the time you get to the improvement part, you have already received feedback, and you've already engaged, and you can apply it at another level. So learning, engaging, assaying, and then improving. And that's kind of the flow of any of the ideas that I will use in the presentation. Now, first idea is, of course, are you listening? Many people in Toastmasters know how to actually give a presentation. But we all know that Toastmasters is not just a speaking club. It's a communication and leadership club, right? So what does communication involve? It involves speaking and listening. Right. And most of the time when you're in a meeting, you are listening. But how well are you actually listening? And I found that most people, particularly in interpersonal communication, listening is not their strong point. You may do it every day, but a lot of times stuff comes in one ear and goes out the other. And so what I'd like to focus on this time is how to actually improve not only your basic listening skills, but active listening. And I'm going to cover that if this idea is adopted. I'm sure many of people already know who this guy is. Now, why, which I did cover, but the main part is that in any type of communication, there's often a lot of misinterpretation involved. You think you heard something that the speaker said, but your interpretation of what the speaker is trying to actually convey may be very different. And that's where active listening actually comes involved. And also, in order for you to actually get your idea across, it's always important to make sure that the other person is understood. This is a very important part of any negotiation. So the things I'm going to cover is that dealing with miscommunication, also understanding the other side through active listening. Now, I have given a large list of the types of things that I would like to cover in the time that I would actually like to do this particular. And there's a lot here. There's actually 9 ideas. But the basic thing that I would like for you to understand here is there are often a lot of big obstacles in dealing with listening. For example, emulating snap judgments. A lot of the times when you're listening from your own point of view, not the other side. And so one of the big objectives that I'd like to do is try to remove those types of barriers where you're listening from your point of view, not putting yourself in the other side. And this will actually help improve your own listening skills. And it also helps improve understanding when you're listening to other people's speeches. Another thing that I would like to cover is actually the 4 different stages of active listening, as well as practicing how to listen to understand. Now, what this actually means, the 4 different stages of listening, I will cover in much more detail, but the simple thing is, you're listening first for the words itself. Then you listen for the content, reading between the lines. Another part is listening for the emotional content, and then putting the entire package together for complete listening. Those are the 4 stages that I will actually cover. Now, how is this actually going to flow? Now, initially I had proposed, as this has been done previously, in a 3-meeting format. Again, for me it's a little bit flexible depending on the actual case. But the first meeting will start with the general basics of listening and also the general basics of active listening. And then, in the Japanese part, I think I wanted to focus more on the active listening because, in this case, English, there are lots of people who probably have a little bit of trouble actually doing the hearing part, let alone the active listening part. So the active listening will be mostly focused on the Japanese section. And the bilingual part is we'll be putting all the pieces together that we learned in the first 2 sessions, and also dealing with what I would call multicultural listening. Next is, of course, Robert's Rules of Order. This is a very common and of course internationally accepted way of dealing with discussion and parliamentary procedure. I found that most people do not know it very well, to the detriment of a lot of business portions in Toastmasters Club, and also through the General Council meetings here in District 76, where I actually had to handle an emergency situation as the actual chairman of one particular meeting, much to my dismay. Now, why do we actually have to deal with this? Again, as I mentioned before, it's internationally accepted. Basically, it's important for your business portion to run smoothly. And most of the time that I've noticed in a lot of Toastmasters Clubs, the business portion is the least professional part of the meeting. And especially if it's put at the end or at the beginning, it is also the one that tends to provide the least good impression on the guest. And it kind of gives, does this club really run well or not? So if this is not done professionally, people tend to have doubts on how actually professional this club really is. This is a very important part. The other one, well, is a minor. Now, the general curriculum, these are the types of objectives that you're going to learn and accomplish in this particular session. Learning the basic order of business. I've noticed in a lot of Toastmasters clubs, this is not even actually there. A lot of Japanese clubs are really not the legal items, but the actual order of business, there are several steps of going through it. Very ordered, very simple. Learning orders procedure. Not very many people actually know what these are. People may motion, that's about it. There's a lot more to it. Then making them up properly. And then dealing with these other ones. One very important part about speech is actually being able to write a speech well. It can be the difference between a so-so speech and a winner. Most of you probably know that presidents, CEOs, these people have people doing speech writing for them. Many of you are probably ever impressed with, for example, President Obama's speeches. But every one of the speeches has been written by someone else. He is just an actor on stage, delivering very effectively. And so what I would actually do with this particular session, writing right, is mastering writing techniques. In my particular case, I am very skilled in English. I learned a lot of writing techniques that I know about. And I would actually use not only techniques that I already know about, but also showcasing some very famous orders and the techniques that they use in order to improve your actual speech writing. Now again, why? As I mentioned before, people judge you by the words that you use and how you actually say them. You can come across as being very professional or as being a hick from the stick, depending on the words you use and how you actually put them together. And every one of you probably wants to win a contest. And the one thing about contests is words matter. They matter more than anything. And so how you actually put your words together with solid content. If you don't have solid content, then nothing matters. But good words with good solid content can get you to the big show. Again, the general curriculum involves one, showing your amenities and amenities. A lot of times you have things that you like when you write a speech or think about a speech. Half of that is junk. And you have to figure out a way to actually get rid of it. And then another part is powerful endings and openings. Most people pay attention to the ending and beginning of your speech, but not so much to the middle. So this is a very important thing to master. Also, learning rhetorical techniques. There are a lot of techniques, and these are the types of what I'm going over. The other two, I don't want to talk too much about myself. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Matcha.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, let's have 3 minutes.